Hi everyone! For this cookbook review, I chose to review The Texas Food Bible by Dean Fearing. He's a chef who's often called the godfather of Southwestern cuisine. This book is very full of bold, flavorful recipes that reflect the diversity and the personality of Texas food culture. From smoky brisket to Gulf Coast shrimp to today's recipe, Texas sheet cake. I chose this particular recipe because it's something I actually grew up eating even back home in Illinois. My family made Texas sheet cake for all kinds of gatherings, birthdays, holidays, a random Friday night. But that's not the reason I chose this cookbook. I chose this cookbook because it stood out to me. The cover was bold, but particularly because Texas food itself played a really big role in my life, especially during my early teenage years. Mostly because I spent most of the past half of my life in Texas, and it's where I started to grow out of my super picky eating habits. Trying new foods like Tex-Mex barbecue, and even kolaches, even though I don't like them. Unpopular opinion, I know. It wasn't just about tasting new foods or growing out of my comfort zone. It was also about connecting to the place and the people and the culture that I was now a part of. Friedman talks about how food is part of how we tell stories about ourselves. And that's exactly what this cookbook does. It tells a story of a place. It tells a story of tradition and of how food can bring you into a culture that you might not have thought you could have been a part of. It made me feel this time like I was cooking something familiar, but also that I was deeply rooted in a regional identity. And for so long, I wanted to be considered a Texan, but I never thought that I could. And then food and the food culture here has actually transformed that idea for me. And so let's get into this
One of my
recipe.
favorite things about the Texas Food Bible is how straightforward the recipes are, yet they still feel elevated. Dean Fearing writes like a chef, but he also writes like a Texan uncle who really wants you to enjoy the food that he's making. This Texas sheet cake recipe might look very simple, because it is, and that's the point. It's a dish that relies on the memory and the community around it to base its value off of, rather than finesse. It's rich, it's sweet, and it's best served in a gathering where people can get together and just be. As Naudiker and Friedman both discuss in their books, most recipes assume a shared knowledge on how to basic cook. So how to mix, how to melt butter, how to know when something is quote-unquote done. And this recipe does exactly that. It gives you just enough to get there, but it also trusts your instinct too. Paul Friedman and Naudiker also remind us that taste is about more than just flavor. It's cultural, it's emotional, and recipes like this one carry the values of a place, its history, and the people who keep making it. So when I poured the warm frosting over the cake, I wasn't just finishing a dessert, I was stepping back into something I thought I'd forgotten. I wasn't just stepping back into a memory or into a culture I grew up in, but I was stepping forward as well into a culture that I will continue to grow in and continue to be a part of, whether or not the rest of my life is spent here in Texas or not.
Okay, so I have here my Texas sheet cake, but I'm really excited to try it. Okay, here we go. That piece didn't have much frosting on it. And that piece had too much. It's really good. It's my first time making this cake, and it's not as good as my grandmother's, but it's pretty darn close.